Welcome to Quick Hits, hosted by Dental Peers, and I am your host, Sean Peers, President and CEO of Dental Peers. We have a return visitor with us today, Nicolle Ross from Maxill, who was on, I think, on our first one that we ever did, actually. So welcome back, Nicolle.
Thank you for inviting me back. It's a pleasure.
Oh, it's great to have you, and I'm glad that you agreed to give this a second go around. And today, we're going to take some of Nicolle's great expertise. You know that she's got a great history in the dental industry, working in it for 20 years as a clinical treatment coordinator, as a dental assistant. She's done speaking and presenting on IPAC and a host of other topics. So she has a wealth of knowledge to share with us. And today we are going to be talking about that dreaded topic of dental supplies and putting out some helpful tips and tricks as to how we can maintain a solid inventory and of our sundries and our supplies while staying below budget. It sometimes can be possible. Obviously, the first tip you've all followed, you're members of Dental Peers, so you've taken advantage of your first trick right there. But Nicolle, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and it is an interesting topic these days because the dental supply world has changed quite a bit. Partly because of COVID, but just partly because of the way things are evolving in the world. What are you seeing happening right now?
Right now, the supply chain is a little bit delayed. A lot of offices are maybe under scrutiny, thinking that they're going to run out. That was a few months back when COVID was really hot. Things are a little bit different now, but with supply chains, we never know what's across the board, whether things are backed up with COVID still, maybe their vaccines aren't as good, maybe shipping's backed up. You really want to make sure that your inventory is up to par, making an advanced thought process as to where you're going to get it from and what the overall cost may be to order in advance. I know with some supply chains now, you may be a little bit delayed, so you think that you might not going to have enough masks or gloves going forward, so you're going to bulk up. But with having said that, the cost is a little bit high now, so we have to be cautious of supply and demand and the cost of overall.
Yeah, it's a little bit of sort of hedging your bets, taking a little bit of guess when you think it's going to be less expensive, when is it going to be more expensive right now, isn't it?
It is, and we have to be cautious on overall expense and usage. We can't just be wasteful anymore, like putting on one set of gloves to write something down to then have to take them off with not even doing any examination or clinical is a little bit wasteful when some offices are paying, $60, $70 for a box of 100 gloves, knowing that would maybe be a day's worth of gloves.
So it sounds to me one of the key tips is you really have to plan out your process.
Right.
So that you can, okay, I'm going to be doing this. I will need that. If I put a glove on here and touch this, then I got to take it off and I got to put, how do I sort of redo some of my processes to reduce the amount of inventory?
Right. And I have noticed an increase in order supplies of overgloves, like the good old days where we always used to kind of use an overglove to go into a drawer or to take an x-ray. I've seen a little bit of an increase in the older style, if you want to call it that, where we got away from overgloves, where you're doing an overglove system or you're minimizing, not leaving your operatory at all to go in to do things. So you're saving on PPE overall. You just maybe have to look at your schedule on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, even a month-to-month basis to say, okay, right now we have this restorative, these many surgeries, these are the sundries we're going to use, and go from there. It's kind of a structured consistency in regards to setting up maybe a template, an Excel spreadsheet in regards to where you are in inventory, what the schedule looks like maybe in a month in advance, and where you are for supplies.
It's interesting because yes, planning out and knowing your processes, knowing your schedule, what you're going to need, what you're going to be relying on, that's great. You try to plan ahead. You try to make sure you keep a certain amount of inventory in stock, but at the same time, we've had years of working on what we've always sort of called our just-in-time delivery model.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that becomes a challenge to live by when supply chains are a little bit erratic.
Right. Or the supply chains are out of whack and are, say, for example, even Maxill, I'm going to use it as an example. You could order mass volumes of supplies, it'd be delayed, and you've got back orders now. Right? Or you maybe have a rep come in from another supply company and maybe they forgot to place your order, or you did it online and something happened. Now you're back behind the 8 ball and you have no gowns. So you really end up having to be careful in regards to IPAC compliance with maybe all the regulatory PPEs as mandatory. So you kind of have another burden of stress in regards to product and everything else. there's so much hidden information right now that you really have to kind of get your ducks in a row, scheduling your product in advance, not maybe ordering every day to save on cost. Maybe you're doing an order once a week, if not every couple of weeks, to allow for product to come in and the overall cost come down.
And that's a challenge as well. I mean, once upon a time, costs were more predictable, right? I mean, we could sit down, a catalog would get published with the prices, and those would be the prices pretty much for the year.
Right.
But
We
that was
can't
in a
do that
day.
anymore.
You can't do that anymore.
No.
Raw material prices fluctuate on a daily basis. So that means we're seeing at the very least monthly fluctuations in a lot of the sundry costs. And I think that's taking a lot of dentists by surprise right now.
It is in the overall budget of the good old 6%, if we want to call it that, that's been around for a long time in dental and across the board. We can't really survive off that 6%. So you really have to watch your budget, your inventory, as well as the IPAC compliance and where you are in regards to that. As well, the other stress that comes with it is we can no longer store our product inventory in the sterile bay anymore, where everything used to be able to be stored in there. We really are then scrutinized into a storage area or a storage compartment. So then that then minimizes how much product sometimes you're able to have or how much supplies you're able to have in one location.
So certainly managing supplies on that front and managing your order is, I mean, it can be a labor intensive process.
It can be.
Yeah. I know from offices, even within the Dental Peers family, where some of them have had people that were right on top of things, and they got their inventory costs down to like around 4%.
Good for them.
Yeah. And that's a combination of obviously the great pricing, but it's also about being well organized.
It is. Now, the good old days of having the card system where everything was on a card and you reciprocated the card system that way. I've seen it even where the last product on a shelf has a card system, and whoever pulls the last one gets ordered. We really can't survive off of that system anymore. It almost has to be a digital version or an outside company that comes to do all that inventory for you to make sure that the product is there. It's not going to expire. Maybe prophy paste that you used to have bulk orders of or bulk product of that you're really not using maybe right now because of the aerosol procedures. Maybe you don't need to order prophy paste for 6 months. You really have to be a little bit due diligence and do your homework in your product room.
So we're all going to have to go with RFID tags and scan and everything.
And basically, that seems to be the newest thing. You're absolutely right. Where everything's kind of got a barcode, it's scanned, it's computerized. You know who took it last, when it's going to get ordered, if it was ordered for you, when it's going to come in. You almost have to be a little bit up on your game now in regards to inventory and product management for sure.
100%. And I mean, I have seen some offices where that's what they have in place. And the key to that then is the storage area that you do have has to be well organized. It
does, yes. And really, I'll be honest, not delegating the good old days to just one person responsible for that. It almost has to be the entire team.
Yeah, the entire team has to know, okay, if I'm taking this, I got to scan it, right? Because in the past, somebody would come in, they would look at the shelves, and they would see, okay, we're running short of this, we'll put this down for the next order. Or maybe there'd be a system where someone would record it. Oh, I've noticed, so they'll write it down for whoever placed the order. But now everyone has to remember when they go in, okay, I've taken this, I got to scan that I've used it now, if that's the system they're going to. Right.
Or you end up with not having anything, or it's a week without getting it. You're absolutely right. The other thing that I've witnessed in my travels of helping out offices, sometimes they feel that the Amazon world or online world is their best buck to order. Be careful with that, because if it's too good to be true price-wise, it usually is. As well, sometimes when you order online, it may not be FDA approved, which means you really can't have it in your dental practice because it doesn't have a corresponding instructions for use or manufacturer's instructions for use, whether that's equipment or product. So be careful if you're trying to overall budget-wise save by maybe ordering your product or equipment online, because it's not always what you see.
Well, and that's an interesting point too, because I mean, let's face it, as these costs do go up, the temptation to use an Amazon or another supplier who's essentially providing gray market goods,
right?
Let's call it what it is. The savings look great, and they'll tell you it's the same product. I know I've been approached by some of them to partner with them, and maybe they'd have one or two lines of goods that they were authorized to supply. which was interesting because then their pricing, if we had that same manufacturer working with us, our pricing was way better.
Right.
But obviously, we weren't going to be able to compete on the gray market side.
No.
These are, we just don't, but they wouldn't tell you where it's sourced from.
Right.
They would just say, oh, we get it from the States. Well, that's where you got it. How did it get into the States, and where did it come from in the first place?
Right. And even my experience, you sometimes have expiry dates that aren't really the actual expiry dates. They don't have instructions for use or manufacturer's instructions for use. So you really can't be practicing with that from an IPAC perspective. So there's a lot of cautiousness in regards to the going that way. Like I said, it's usually, if it's too good to be true, it typically is, price wise as well as safety wise.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's an unfortunate cycle that we're finding ourselves in, not just in our dental practices, but I mean, day-to-day lives, everything is getting more expensive. And part of it could be the impact of the pandemic. And maybe we'll see the life stabilize a little bit if we can ever get through this phase.
Very true.
But in the meantime, we have to make sure that we're living within our means, and the key to it is, from what I'm gathering, is to be planning ahead. Knowing your process is one of your tips, and making sure your inventory room is as organized as possible, and the team is all trained, not just one person. The team is all trained and aware of their role in inventory management.
Correct. That's what my recommendation would be. That way you facilitate everybody's key components in regards to making sure the day runs smoothly. There's no product that's expired, or you've completely run out, or you're depleted and your inventory isn't going to be replenished for another week or two because of the supply chain, or maybe a rep forgot to do it, or the order didn't get placed at all. There's many dynamics that come into factor right now.
Well, those are a lot of great and useful tips. Nicolle, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate having you back on.
Thank you very much.
And if people wanted to reach out to you for more information, ways that you can help them get their supply rooms organized and stuff like that, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
They can email me at nicollr@maxill.com.
Excellent. So thanks very much. Feel free to ask Nicolle any questions you have. Reach out to her. She is a great resource to be able to help you out. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you all back here on Quick Hits. Thanks for joining us.